Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Olá, amigos queridos, boa noite, bom dia, boa tarde, aonde vocês estiverem. Hello, my dear friends. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here once again in this program talking about something very important today, mediumship, meeting, and we can discuss, enjoy, and make our comments in our chat, and we'll be together. Thank you so much. Be nice with Stevan, Charles, and Nadja. Thank you.
Labas, labas vakaras visiems, labas diena, labas rytas. Šiandien kalbėsime apie mediumizmą, kalbėsime apie dvasingumą ir nužiūrėsime gyvenimo klausimus. Tikiuosi, kad jums bus naudinga. Hello, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Thank you for joining us. And today, as Elsa said, we're going to talk about mediumship. I hope you enjoy it.
Bonjour, bonsoir. Merci d'être ici avec nous. On va vous parler aujourd'hui de la médiumnité, sujet très intéressant et très lié au spiritisme. Hello everyone, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Happy to be here again with you today to talk a little bit about mediumship.
Fayete, good night, good evening, welcome everyone. I hope you're having a beautiful day. Once again this week we are here to talk about the mediumship. Are we all mediums? And we go through some of these discussion here, and I hope these will reach your bars and put you to think how this works in yourself and the people surrounding you. Thank you. And keep going on our discussion here. I just wanted to say for our friends who are in America, we know the daylight saving time already begun. So here in Europe, not. We will start our daylight saving next Sunday. So for today and next episode, we will be 1 hour late compared to our standard time. Okay, our regular time. So good evening, Nathan. We have with us here Nathan Azerbev, Sileide Christina. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. So, Charles, you are my guinea pig now. You know, I need to start for someone. No, I will preserve the ladies, and we will start with Charles.
Let's go.
In history, we know mediumship was always among us. Like we have many episodes. Socrates, Plato, Moses, Jesus, Delphos. So it's so many examples of mediumship. And however, in the 19th century, we have a kind of compilation of this. And as a research, could you give us some overview what happened in 19th century? It's a big step for the mediumship control and understanding.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the question, Stevan. As you tell, mediumship is a human faculty, so it exists since human is existing. Huh? So it's very old. But indeed, in the 19th century, to use an expression that was used by Arthur Conan Doyle in his book, History of Spiritualism, he wrote that there has been a kind of organized invasion of mediumship phenomenon promoted by the spirits, by the spiritual world. As I think the one we quote, it was a little bit before the 19th century, is Emanuel Swedenborg, famous medium, who had the vision to see, for instance, a fire which happened in Stockholm whilst he was in Göteborg. And he described to all these the several fellows which were with him in the same room details about this fire, and this got confirmed a couple of days later when the information came from Stockholm to Göteborg. So it's one of the first, let's say, commented mediumship. But again, I mean, here in France we have Joan of Arc, who she was listening voices. And so, as you told, it exists since a long time. But now, to start in the 19th century, the famous phenomenon who really triggered the mediumship phenomenon was this Fox family house in Hydesville, state of New York in the US, where there were some raps, poltergeist or raps in this house. And it became really very strong at a point that they could not sleep anymore. They called neighbors for help, police even, and so on. And nobody could discover the origin of these raps. And one day, the daughter of the family, Kate Fox, three, Lee, Margaret Lee, and Kate Fox, Kate started a kind of a dialogue with the raps. Your split foot, please show me that you can count until 3. And then she heard talk, 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 3 raps. And this was really the beginning of the dialogue, showing that the raps are not random, that there is something behind the raps, a kind of an intelligence. And they could, through this rudimentary way, and engage some dialogue with this entity, and they got the information that it was a spirit called Charles Rosma, who has been, he was an ambulant seller, and he has been, how to say, killed in the house. And indeed, a couple of years later, they found some human skeleton and other signs in the lower part of the house when they made some works in the house. So that was then the first phenomenon. It got highly mediatized at that time in the US already. People against, people in favor, religious telling it's the devil, and journalists and so on. So it made a lot of noise in the media at that time. And so this got spread really widely worldwide. The phenomenon was known like this. And then it was also the trigger of some more serious investigation. So they called some scientists who came and checked, observed the phenomenon. They came to the conclusion that the phenomenon is authentical, and that there is no trick, nobody hidden heating on the wall or some, nothing like that. And some came, how to say, in order to show the masquerade, to show the tricks, and they ended up convinced about the authenticity of the phenomenon, and went up to write some books about this. So this phenomenon got then spread worldwide. It changed a little bit. Instead of raps, it was they arrived into the turning tables or dancing tables. And it was at that time where there was no TV, no radio, no internet, nothing. A kind of game that they used in the gatherings, in the salon, as we call it in French. In order to attract visitors, invitees, and so on. And the fashion at that time was just to organize some sessions around the table and to have a kind of a dialogue with the spirits. So this was in the 50s. It was, of course, through whole Europe, but it also Australia, New Zealand, wherever you can find this old newspaper of that time, you will find signs of writings on this subject. So this is what Arthur Conan Doyle called the invasion of the spirits. And then amongst these serious scientists who investigated the phenomenon, there was one called Hippolyte Léon Denis Rivail. So he heard the first time about the phenomenon in 1854. He was also skeptical at the beginning. Okay, a table maybe can moving through some effects of fluids or whatever. But when he heard that the table is answering intelligently to some questions, then he thought, no, this I will only believe when you demonstrate me that the table has a brain and intelligence and whatever. Huh? And in a year later, a couple of months later, he got invited again to a session in Paris. He also could see immediately that the phenomenon was authentical, that there was no trick. Huh? And he had also the inspiration to see that behind that there was something very serious, capable of providing answers to some fundamental questions humankind is asking since centuries or even millenniums. And he really started to investigate the phenomenon seriously. So the first contact of Hippolyte Léon Denis Rivail with mediumship was in 1854. We have found now some original letters showing that he had already some contacts with somnambulism, mesmerism. In particular, he was consulting sometimes a somnambulist to, in case of health problem for him or his wife or his daughter at that time. Huh? And he asked advices from this somnambule lady, but he was thinking that somnambulism, as per the mesmerist, was the faculty of the soul of the somnambulist itself. He did not perceive at that time that it is possible to also to have the influence of a third party, of another spirit, independent of the people which are present, the somnambule and himself in that case. So he made them several studies, a lot of questions, answers, showed several groups in Paris. And when all these fellows saw his interest and his dedication and seriousness in studying the subject, they gave him a lot of booklets with communications, questions and answers they received in the past years. And this helped then Hippolyte Léon Denis Rivail to compile the spirit, what is today called the Spiritist teaching, in a book that he published in 1857, 18th of April. So soon it will be 164 years. And then he also took the pseudonym of Allan Kardec, which was signing this book. And this book was really a kind of a revolution at that time, because it was the first really book written on the subject based on so many communication, on so many observations, and compiled in such a rational way, covering a lot of different aspects about the fundamental questions that creation, God, the universe, about the spirits, life in spirits, mediumship, about moral laws. And so the first edition had 502 questions and answers, which have been then issued also worldwide. It was an immediate success. Why? Because the period was quite favorable in France and also in other countries in the world. Because in France, the philosophy teachings, for instance, were following a spiritualist paradigm at that time. Philosophy was not materialist as it is today. And so the first spiritists were people who studied this rational spiritualism or French spiritualism, and who had already this notion that in the human, as we told in the past emission, that we have a soul. Human body human being has a physical body, but has also a soul. So this philosophy was studying the incarnated soul, and Kardec, through the observation of the mediumship phenomenon, he just extended the study of this soul beyond the physical life, beyond the incarnated study, means before and after, and the communicability between the souls and the human, which is so-called mediumship. Okay, this is the subject of today. So he revised the Spirit's book first in 1859. He wrote a second book, which was called Practical Instructions for Spiritist Manifestations. So it was a kind of introductory to the medium's book that he published at the end in January 1861, which is the edition that we have still today published. Because the first booklet was, as we tell in French, too much or not enough at the same time, Too much because it gave a lot of indication, and not enough because it was not extensive. It did not cover all the aspects. And this he corrected then in the medium's book, which is, to my perception, still today, which means 160 years later, because it was January 61. So in January 2021, it was 160 years ago. It is still today the most complete, detailed, profound treatise about mediumship. Okay, I did not. There are a lot of other books covering certain aspects here and there, even from Gabriel Delanne, from Chico Xavier, etc. But really, the medium's book is, for me, until today, unrivaled. I did not find anything better so far. So, on the title of the medium book, it's Kardec is introducing the content of the book itself, which is special teachings by the spirits concerning the theory of all the gems of manifestations, the means of communicating with the invisible world, the development of mediumship, the difficulties and pitfalls that may be encountered in the practice of Spiritism. So you see, only this, which is on the cover page, is already explaining the extent of all what is covered in this book. And then, of course, there is an introduction. The book has several parts. The first part is he's introducing the subject with preliminary observations. Are there spirits? So these questions that we talked about in our previous emissions, the spiritualism paradigm in rupture with the materialist paradigm. Then he's also talking about the extraordinary and supernatural, because supernatural typically is something which is nonsense, because you cannot have something above the nature. The supernatural of today is natural of tomorrow, once the science is progressing in the discovery of the natural laws. Then he's also talking about the methodology and the different theories about the communication, that it can come from our subconscient of the medium, or from someone in the room, or that the medium are maybe receiving or detecting, identifying some information which is nobody knows exactly where, and so on, and coming to the conclusion that with the proof of identity of spirit of dead person, that the mediumship is really communicating of soul of deceased person to the humans. Then he's in the part 2, he's entering more in details in the spirit manifestation. So you see, he started in 55, 54, the first observation. So in 61, he had already more than 6 years experience in observing the phenomenon, including he saw, for instance, the famous medium Daniel Douglas-Home, which came to Paris and made some mediumistic sessions in the court of the emperor of that time, Napoleon III. This famous episode of levitation, he was levitating on a chair. going out of one window of the room and coming back in the next room through the window. No, so Kardec was present in some of the phenomena that happened with Daniel Douglas Home, and he, of course, considered all this experience in this book, so of the spiritist manifestations, and also in complement of the spirit's book, he is showing the fundamental role of the perispirit or the spiritual body in this phenomenology, and which, combining with the spiritual body of the medium and also a substance that later has been called ectoplasm. Ectoplasm, the word was not used by Kardec himself, but the spirits with the medium and the ectoplasm can have an action on matter, so moving the table, producing wraps, as it has been observed before. And then he's showing then this physical manifestation, the intelligent manifestation, which were the communication of the spirits. He was then giving all this explanation, different type of mediums. The mediums which were writing, other one seeing the spirits, the other one hearing the spirits, and so on, showing really all the different kinds and types of mediumship that he had observed. He's also explaining what happened in Knightsville, the haunted places. He's then classifying also the nature of communications. You have good communications and bad communications. We will come later to that. What is the influence of the mediums? What is the influence of the place where the mediums are and of the persons around the medium in the mediumistic meeting, showing that this influence is very big. How to educate the mediumship, and also the one important chapter is the problems, difficulties, and dangers of the mediumship. So showing clearly that it's not a game, it's something that you rather study before practicing. Otherwise, it can be dangerous, like when you start mixing nitric acid with glycerin, you rather study the chemical, because nitroglycerin can explode in your face. So mediumship is a little bit, of course, it's not so physical, but it can lead to serious problems like obsession that he's also describing in the book. He's also very importantly describing how you can recognize, how you can identify the question of how we cannot see the spirits. So how can we be sure that the one who is signing is really the one that has sent the communication? How can we be sure that the communication is good or bad? But it's simply by the observation, by the reasoning, analyzing everything, every detail, every circumstance, and so on. And never, ever believe in anything that the spirits are giving, because as we will see also later, the spirits are just deceased humans. So you have good spirits, but you have also bad spirits and even very bad spirits. So you rather be aware and capable of detecting who is in front of you, or who is behind the pen, or who is behind the phenomenon. And then he's also talking about another question, the contradictions which happen sometimes between Spiritism in France and Spiritism in UK or in US. There were some differences. For instance, the notion of reincarnation. He's also explaining why this type of things sometimes can happen. And he's also describing also another important item, which is charlatanism, trickery, and also the paid mediumship, and what are the inconveniences of such practices. So that's it. At the end of the book, there is also a Spiritist glossary explaining the main vocabulary used in Spiritism in general. So that's about it. Sorry, I maybe was a little bit too long, but as kind of an introduction for us to develop now.
You summarize some centuries in 20 minutes.
But it's dense. I apologize for that, but okay. I hope at least it gives to the fellows which are following us the volunteers that they really are motivated to read the book. That's our main goal.
Yes, we're gonna see here a little a brief video prepared by the British Union Spiritists of Societies, and it's a great introduction about the Spirits book. So let me put it to you guys.
Are we all mediums? Whatever idea about spirits may be, such belief is necessarily based on the existence of an intelligent principle apart from matter. Alongside mediums per se, the number of individuals who are concerning themselves with spirits manifestations is increasing every day. In the Medium's book, dictated from spiritual benefactors to Allan Kardec, that is known as a codifier of the Spiritist teachings or Spiritist philosophy, says, every individual who senses the influence of spirits to any degree of intensity is a medium. This faculty is inherent to humankind. Therefore, it does not constitute an exclusive privilege, and there are very few individuals who do not possess it, at least in a rudimentary state. Thus, we can state that everyone is a medium to a certain degree. This faculty does not express itself in all mediums in the same way. Some thoughts come to our minds. We can reflect. We must still determine if spirits can communicate with humans. That is, if they can exchange thoughts with us. But why couldn't they? What is a human being except a spirit imprisoned in a physical body? Why couldn't a free spirit communicate with a captive spirit, just as a free human can communicate with a prisoner? If we believe in the survival of the soul after death, would it be rational to deny the survival of its affections? In other words, since souls are everywhere, wouldn't it be natural to believe that a being who had loved us during life could approach us, that he might want to communicate with us, and that he would utilize all the means at his disposal to do so? While he was living on earth, didn't it act upon the matter of his body? Wasn't it the person's soul who guided the movements of his or her body? Then why after death would he be prevented from expressing his thoughts in conjunction with another spirit who is still linked to a body, just as a mute uses a person who can speak in order to be understood? We invite you all to read and study The Medium's Book by Allan Kardec. Free download from the website www.buss.org.uk. The Medium's Book is addressed exclusively to those who already believe that there is in a human being a principle of conscious individuality that survives the body, and to those who consequently admit, first, the action of law in the evolution of human life, and second, the existence of the inscrutable ordainer of the universe, of wisdom and will. So, the Medium's Book brings to us special teachings by the spirits concerning the theory of all genres of manifestations, the means of communicating with the invisible world, the development of mediumship, the difficulties and pitfalls that may be encountered in the practice of Spiritism. The Medium's Book is also addressed to those who are therefore prepared to admit, still further, that the providential ordaining may be expected to proceed for the advancement of our knowledge of our extraterrestrial relations, as it does for that of the sciences, which deal with the various departments of our terrestrial life.
Okay, so this is a great introduction for us about this medium's book. And Nadja, call my attention one of the sentences that we heard now in the video, and what also Charlie said to us: we are all mediums in a certain degree. My question to you as a doctor, do we have any relation or any evidence from the scientific view?
Yeah, we have in the well, qualitative studies we have since 150, 160 years, but they are getting more and more modern and better quality, because we are using now functional MRIs, we are using single photon emission CT scans, we are using modern EEGs and ECGs, so we can correlate the medium mystic experience with the events that happens in our physiopathology, as I say. It's very important because we can eliminate information leakage or the telepathy explanations that some scientists give regarding the reception of accurate information. Because according to science, mediumship is the alleged ability to communicate with deceased personalities on regular basis. So we can communicate with loved ones. It happens in all religions and cultures all over the world. It manifests, as Charles said, by seeing spirits or clairvoyance, or hearing spirits like clairaudience, and automatic writing or psychography, and spirits possession. What we have in between the scientists is a lot of beliefs and prejudice correlating the mental disorders or hallucinations or schizophrenia, for example, with the mediumistic events or experiences. At present, mediumship is considered a form of dissociation. So dissociation is the occurrence of experience and behaviors that are thought to exist apart from or to have been disconnected from the mainstream of one conscious awareness, behavior, repertoire, and self-concept. So we have the mediumistic experience as a non-pathological dissociative phenomenon. So dissociative phenomenon is a partial or complete loss of our normal integration memories, or our loss of our awareness of identity, loss of body movements, nor sensation of uncontrolled body movements. And the main gland related to mediumship, according to Dr. Sérgio Felipe de Oliveira, is the pineal gland. So the pineal gland is epiphyse, called also, located in the middle of the brain at the level of our eyes. And it's a very important, very small, but very important gland that coordinates the production and secretion of hormones in the entire body, and also secretes the melatonin. It's our sleep hormone. The pineal gland contains crystals of apatite, and many also very small blood vessels, and has a high electromagnetic field. So according to the studies of Dr. Sérgio Felipe de Oliveira, that's how we capture the vibrational waves of the spiritual world, because of this high electromagnetic field or high electromagnetic capacity of the pineal gland. Some people have crystallized pineal glands, some don't. That's no much difference when we are doing the anatomical neuroimaging studies, for example. And with time, these crystals reduce in quantity and in electricity. And these crystals, those who have crystals, they are more prone to incorporate or to have a mechanical, mediumistic characteristic. So they can see spirits, they can do the automatic writing or psychography, and or even talk to spirits in the spiritual world better. No? Those who don't have these crystals in the pineal gland, they can they have the capacity of having the out of body experience. So kind of like unfolding, or we say desdobramento in Portuguese. So they have more sensations. They can have more feelings from other people, from the environment, but also they can have hyper attention. So the pineal gland captures this information from the spiritual world and resends to other parts of our brains. So that's why it's a very important gland. When it sends the information to the frontal lobe, so the person has more intuition or ideas, so they can have good or bad influences. To the occipital lobe, they have a visual perception, so they are the clairvoyants. The writing area, so they can psychograph, they can do the automatic writing, or the speaking area, psychophonia, and the hypothalamus area. Then when it affects more the hypothalamus area, then the patient has hormonal alterations, which means that their clinical symptoms are present. So they are more aggressive, they have sleep patterns different, they have more violence, they cannot control their behaviors. That's why it's very important to have a psychotherapy, psychiatrist evaluation, and the neuroimagings that we are having now. So we have the measuring the size of the pineal gland and the pituitary gland. And the scientists recently have discovered, there's a study from April 2020 from Dr. Marco Aurelio, Dr. Décio Iandoli, and Giancarlo Lucchetti, talking about the difference from the size of the pineal gland and pituitary gland in mediums and compared to control non-mediums or active mediums. And they saw no difference in the size, no anatomical difference. So the mental health was also normal for all of them, the mediums and non-mediums. The sleep quality was also similar, and they measured the melatonin in the urine. So there was also no difference in the quantity of melatonin in comparison to those people who were non-medium. So proving that mediums are not presenting any pathological dissociative disorder, as many other scientists may generalize. No? That's why it's very important also to have this knowledge of mediumship, as we are saying about the medium's book. So we have to know what is going through, what are you going through, what's going on with you, study about it, and then also if you have any doubts or in any case go through a psychiatric evaluation. And the psychiatrists they all have to ask about the family situation, the social circumstances, and the impact of these mediumistic activities or experiences in the patient's life, because it can have some interference and can cause health problems. Yeah, so I think with time we are going to have even more studies in important papers in the world. That we have many Brazilian researchers doing several articles and serious studies and following methodology, international standards. We have people in the United States doing also many research using the modern equipment, something that in one of the studies they commented, they said that the technical difficulties of doing any serious research using the technology is also has an impact in the final results of the study. But it's very important to know that we have the methodology, we have good researchers, and we can exclude the fraud, we can exclude those who want to take benefit from the mediumistic capability and gain some financial benefit from it. So when we can correlate the mediumistic and the anatomical situation or physiological situation, and we can separate also, understand better the mental disease, the mental disorder, and the normal patient and the normal mediumistic situation. So to clarify that being a medium is not having any mental disorder or any hallucination or schizophrenia.
Okay, thank you, Nadja. Thank you. Very, very interesting. It's good to know that, as we know, science is walking side by side with the spiritual teaching. So, and now we go to our dear lady Elsa. My dear, I have a tricky question for you. You are in mute. You're in mute.
Which one?
Yeah. So, since we are all mediums, since the mediumship is with us in certain level degree, science, we have evidences the existence of mediumship. History is with us. My question to you is, we only see mediumship manifestation in adults or not?
Not only adults, can be in children as well since early ages. As Charles pointed, and so do I didn't find any better book to explain everything regarding mediumship, because it's not something only for the spiritism, but only for the spirituality in general. Can be in any religion, any philosophy. Anyone can be a medium, because it's not related to one class or one color or one country or everything. It's for everyone, as Nadja pointed, regarding the pineal gland. Children as well can be a medium since the early ages. And it's important to father, mother, someone that is educating the children. If children express something different, seeing that people, their invisible friends, sometimes you talk with a child and the child is said, "Don't sit there, my friend is there." So you can say, "Oh, your friend is there. Okay, leave your friend tranquil there, and you can come and bring with me and play with me." So we have to be careful not to put too much attention that make the child, "Oh, are you seeing someone? Yeah, you do that. Can someone say this and that for you?" Because the child is not developed totally yet to use the mediumship to do things. Of course, the invisible friends can be there, can play with them, can talk with them. And when the child is a non-sensitive medium since the early ages, mother, there was someone that is taking care of the child, can talk with a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but say that is not something that can be a illness. but it's a phenomenon that can be very well understandable from the Spiritist point of view, as Kardec pointed in the second part of the Medium's book, chapter 18, item 221, if you want to learn or if you want to read the Spirit's book. 106 years ago, Kardec organized all this information, giving guidance for the relatives according to the child development. And he says, could developing mediumship in children cause problems? Certainly, and sustaining it could also be very dangerous, because such fragile and delicate organisms would be very disturbed and their infantile imaginations too overexcited. Thus, prudent parents will keep these ideas away from them, or at least they will speak to them regarding their possible consequences from the mental point of view. So don't stimulate your child to be a medium, to do things regarding this kind of, not possession, but it's a mediumship, interacting with the dead people or spirits in the spiritual world. So in the second question, nonetheless, there are children who are natural mediums, whether of physical effects, writing, or visions. Is the same danger involved in these cases? No. When the faculty manifests spontaneously in children, it belongs to their nature, and their constitution is adequate. The same does not apply when mediumship is artificially caused and induced. You may notice that children who have visions are usually little concerned about them. Vision seems very natural, so they pay little attention to them and almost always forget about them. So since the early ages, until 7, 8 years old, children can interact, but if you don't put too much attention, they will finish their visions if they are not a specific medium. If they carry on this faculty, as myself, carry on to 15 years old, and sometimes in your puberty or in your teenager or 18, 14, 15 years old, can be diminishes this kind of things and come again later on. That is natural, so natural. And as pointed before, we don't charge for mediumship in our Spiritist mediumship with Jesus. That is, I have more things to say, but I think it's better now to carry on and see another video. I think, if you agree, leave for the next week.
Yeah. So this video is kind of linked with our with the continuation of our episode, because next week we're going to talk about the objectives of the mediumship. But we don't want to finish today to say that the practice, since Achilles well pointed, mediumship happened since the human age, and we need to be very carefully about it. And this video will give us a kind of heads up. What is the situation? One of the situations we need to take care of about mediumship.
Are the psychics, or the mediums, as we call on Spiritism, are they all trustable people? Can I trust them? What they tell, does it really come from spirits? And if so, does it come from good spirits, spirits well-intended? First, not all spirits are well-intended. Not all spirits are wise people. They are just like you and I, without a body. So a stupid person without a body is a stupid spirit. So everything that comes from spirits should always pass through your reason, pass through your mind. See what they're telling you. Does it make sense? Is it for your own good, or is something really kind of weird Is it something that's not going to be good for you or for the other people around you? Wise spirits, they never advise a bad thing. They never advise a thing that does make sense. For example, if a spirit comes to you and say, every Monday you should use purple. Why is that? Doesn't make any sense. But if a spirit comes and tell you, you should be a good person, you should try to reconnect with your brother, you should try to become more calm, you should try to see a more broad way, you should see brothers and sisters in all kinds of religion, you should see brothers and sisters in all kinds of ethnical groups. Well, that's good advice. That probably comes from a wise spirit. Do not trust all the psychics. Do not trust all the mediums. And a good tip there is, if the person charges you, do not go. Run away from that. In Spiritism, we believe that something you receive for free, you should give for free. So if you're a psychic, if you're a medium, in Spiritism, you don't charge for helping the other person with your abilities. So all to say that perhaps in Spiritism, there is free lunch.
Okay, so on time, we have just 8 minutes left here. These are random question, final considerations for today's first episode about mediumship.
Yes, so I like very much this last video because it's, how to say, full of common sense, simply explained, logical way. Do you trust the first one which comes and tells you something in the street? Of course not. There is another method that we usually apply is it's so-called Socratic filter. First question, is it true? So this is where you have to use your reason, your common sense. Does it make sense as it has been clearly told in the video? Second question, is it useful? Why is this now? Why? We can see, for instance, in this COVID period, a lot of communications, mediumistic, giving advices, this and that. But when you go and dig a little bit, you see that it's flat. There is nothing, or sometimes even you can detect in it tentatives of manipulations, making the people afraid about how to say this cataclysm and whatever, and a difficult future. So again, out. And the third filter, is it good? So if you don't have a yes answer to all these three questions, definitively forget it. And the spirit of Erasto, in the Spirit's book, he's writing, you better throw 9 spirit communications which are good away, you spread them away, than accepting one which is not good.
Yes.
So he's putting the threshold of how to say safety to 90%. So I would even put it higher, 99%. You know? But okay, I mean, particularly in difficult periods like now. And I also like very much in this video the paid mediumship. So mediumship, by definition, is a teaching coming from a spirit. So spirits, there is no money in the spiritual world. When we die, all the money stays here. The house, the car, whatever, all the belongings stays here. And the spirits, they are absolutely not motivated by money. So if you imagine that you can count on a good spirit to earn money, I would say it's not thinkable. So that's why in Spiritism, as it has been clearly explained in the video, we give for free what we receive for free for the spirits. Even so, we give some of our time, we dedicated some time, but instead of dedicating some time of learning to dance tango or whatever, we give it just to help the others. That's it.
Thanks, Charles. Anyone else?
I think I can do everything, but not everything conveying to me to do. It's something that we have to question, to use our common sense, our reason, not trust in everything, as Charles pointed. So in this phase now that we are seeing so many messages coming, talking from the spirits about the COVID, about this and that, I don't read. I don't pass. I don't forward it for sure, because only God knows what's going on here now. If the COVID, what COVID is doing, COVID is helping us to maintain ourselves aware about changing, about our inner way to change. So not a message that comes loads messages signed by spirits, etc., that we never ever heard about it, even from the spirits from the other planets. It's not okay. Even one said that the vaccine will cure everybody in May last year. Oh my goodness, we are 1 year after. So be careful and we use our reason and pray, direct your connection towards the Almighty Father or Almighty Mother in order to help you maintain your common sense. Don't pay for this kind of things, in my point of view.
Thanks. Nadja, do you have any?
Yes, I think I'm going to just give an example as I agree. First of all, I agree with the video with Charles, Elsa, because it's very important to know the difference between a serious person and the one that is want to take your money or just to deceive you or trick you somehow. Dr. Alberto Almeida, he's a spiritist doctor in Brazil, and he was giving a very good example from mediumship of mediunity. It's like a knife. A knife is like it's an object. So, but you can use it to cut vegetables and make a good meal, or you can use it to kill a person. So when you have the mediumship, you have to use it for good. And so that's very important to learn about mediumship, learn about what's happening to you physiologically, mentally, spiritually, and use it for good, and not to take advantage on anyone or do bad things to say something to a person who is sometimes in a very emotional state. For example, those who lost their loved ones, a mother who lost her child, and this is it's a moment that the person is very vulnerable and will believe in everything. So the medium, the person who is trying to give the message to the mother, needs to give comfort, bring comfort to her, to help her understand that life goes on, continues, and that the child is in a good place, and not bring more despair, more doubts, and making that mother sad and anxious and even thinking of something else than bad things. So mediumship is like a knife, like as Dr. Alberto Almeida said, and you can use for good or you can use for bad. Depends on your moral level.
Thank you, Nadja. Thank you very much. So our time is up. Thank you very much. I hope you like it. Today's introduction about the mediumship. We saw history, science, and mediumship is manifested in the children as well, and non all mediumship communications or manifestations are trustful. So we need to play our judgment and our reason. So I want to say thank you very much, everybody, for your time. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Elsa. Thank you, Nadja. Thank you very much. I will see you next Thursday, 9 p.m. With the subject, the objectives of the mediumship. So we go more about the objectives and the purpose of the mediumship. So
we have our flyer. If you can show up, right?
No. We don't have. Yeah, I cannot. Yeah, a technical problem here. Yeah. So.
Yes, thank you very much for everybody who was watching.
Thank you.
John,
All the best.
Brian, Munir.
John,
Thank you very much.
Brian, Munir.
Yeah,
So many
Munir,
people there.
Brian, John De Rosa, Rubens Sanchez.
And Munir said something very
Nathan.
important. Thank you all for your talks. Okay.
Thank you all for your talks. This is very interesting information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And see you next Thursday.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. And Nadja, just finish here. There is a comment for you here from Brian. Interesting. William James, throughout his research, did not believe that consciousness survives death.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of them do not believe.
See our previous videos.
Yeah.
But do not believe
We'll
is not
talk
proof
more
that
next
it is not.
week.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So, thank you very much. See you next week, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.